everybody, and welcome back. This is episode 8 of the Vegan Alliance podcast. Thanks again for tuning in. It's 41 degrees here in Adelaide, and it is bloody boiling, and I can't help but spare a thought for the animals that are suffering out there in trucks, in fields and factory farms and hot tin sheds, or just at slaughterhouses waiting to die in this horrendous heat. I can't imagine how uncomfortable it would be, so I'm definitely going to remember that the next time I'm complaining about something. Well, thanks again for tuning into 8 episodes. Not sure if you've listened to all the other episodes yet, but if you haven't, you can listen to them on the iTunes podcast app, also on SoundCloud. And I would like to tell you about our online web store. We have a store at www.theveganalliance.bigcartel.com. We are not for profit. We're not a registered organisation or a charity, but we do put all our money back into animal rights causes. We sell a range of t-shirts and tank tops, some bumper stickers, as well as some activism stickers, some stickers there to use for stop signs, just to make your neighbourhood look a little prettier. I didn't tell you that's what they're for, but hey, what else are you going to use them for? So far, we've actually donated quite a bit of money. I've managed to donate, I think it was around $1,500 to Freedom Hill Sanctuary in Adelaide. I've given just a little under $100 to Forget Me Not Animal Sanctuary, which is quite a new small animal sanctuary, which is having quite a hard time at the moment because they started off quite small and they did get quite a few animals in a very small space of time. But then the council said that the calf that they had, which has grown to be quite a reasonably sized cow now, is not allowed to stay on the property, so they have to move. So they have been crowdfunding to try and get some money to get a deposit on a property, and I think they've had a little bit of luck. You can follow them. I think it's Forget Me Not Animal Sanctuary, and in between each word there's a underscore. So just check that out. If you can go to their GoFundMe page, I think there's a link on the page. That would really help them out. Anything, just even if it's just $5, just to help them get some form of deposit so they can have a bigger property. Otherwise, they're going to have to give all these animals up, and who knows where they're going to end up if they can't be cared for by people who actually love animals. So yeah, I donated some money to them. I've also, this month, I'm donating to Animal Liberation Victoria. I'm hoping to get somewhere between $300 and $500 to give to them. I think they do some absolutely fantastic stuff. They're always doing slaughterhouse vigils. They're always out there stopping trucks, entering the slaughterhouses. They do a lot of rescues. They do some great awareness stuff. They're always at different events with some great literature, all different vegan foods that they get out to the people. Check them out. I think it's just alv.org. And they've got quite a lot going on. They're a very, very active organisation, and I couldn't stress how important they are in the Australian animal rights world. And I'm also going to be putting some money into a few other animal rights causes that I'm passionate about. As I said, we don't take any of the money for ourselves. The only money we spend on that doesn't go to a charity is just paying for small things like the SoundCloud fee to upload the podcast, my PO box, because I don't like having a physical address just based on the nature of what I talk about. I have had some threats in the past, or people try and find out where I live, so I prefer to have a PO box. But yeah, everything just goes back into paying for what we're doing with the Vegan Alliance, and anything left over we donate to the animals. So please help us out. There's some donation options up there too. You can donate anywhere between, I think I've got $5 donations all the way up to $1,000 if you're stinking rich and you've got a bit of spare money that you can use to help animals. But yeah, so please have a look. Just again, www.theveganalliance.bigcartel.com. I would love you to check it out, and please let me know what you think. And if you've got any ideas for things you might like to see on a t-shirt or some stickers, let me know. We do take into consideration all ideas. I'm a quite creative guy, but I have had some fantastic ideas from other people, and they've worked out quite well. So please let me know. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram. That's just the Vegan Alliance. Nearly up to 10,000 followers on the Instagram, which I'm quite happy about. Obviously, it's not about followers for popularity or anything like that. I just want our message to be able to be spread to as many people as possible. It's it is hard, and I do get quite a lot of the more the profile grows, the more backlash and the more sort of hate I get. I get quite a lot of people saying all sorts of nasty things to me, but on the flip side, I actually get quite a lot of good, comments from people that are quite inspiring and positive. Get some fantastic emails from people, and that's the kind of stuff that keeps me going. So if you're liking what we're doing, please get in touch and let me know, because I definitely have times where I sort of think, oh, can I keep doing this? It can be quite stressful, honestly. I do find it a little bit stressful just in terms of having to deal with friends and family sometimes who don't agree with what I say. It can get a bit awkward sometimes when you're around certain people where they think you hate them because they're not the same, which isn't the case. I don't hate non-vegans. I wish they would change their ways. I wish I could educate them. I'm always down to have a civil, intelligent conversation with people, but it definitely can get a little bit tough sometimes, and I do feel a little bit demotivated now and then. So any words of encouragement or constructive criticism would be much appreciated. Other than that, you can follow us on Facebook. We probably use Instagram a little bit more than Facebook, but Facebook's, Instagram's not for everybody. So if you're on Facebook, please follow us on there also. And that's about it for the advertising plugs. We've already mentioned today how hot it is and how much we really need to pay a little bit of mind to the animals that are suffering out there in factory farms and on trucks. I hate it when I am driving along on a boiling hot day and I see all these pigs crammed into these trucks, and they're just covered in their own feces and dirt, and they're just sweating and hot, and it's just it breaks my heart. Honestly, it's the toughest thing to see. It's so hard to see that, and it's right there in your face, but you really just can't do anything about it. I always beat my horn and give the driver the finger, but I know it's not achieving anything. That's purely out of anger. But I just wish I could do more, because I think if I don't do anything about it, those animals are just going to go to slaughter. And what can I do about it? I can't stop and put 100 pigs into my car, and I've got nowhere to take them first, and I've got no room in my car. Like, what am I supposed to do? And I know a lot of people feel exactly the same as me. And basically, I feel like the best thing that you can do when you feel angry like that is to just know that being vegan and being a sincere vegan is absolutely fantastic. I know a lot of people aren't overly active, and that's totally okay. But if you really, really want to help the cause and you do feel helpless sometimes, spreading the message, for me, it's the one thing that actually sort of helps me deal with it, I guess, because it is hard to deal with it and you don't know how you can help. But if you're spreading the word and you're sort of getting more and more people to see your point of view, that's putting less demand on the industry. For instance, I have mentioned in previous podcasts that my fiance's brother-in-law, who will soon be my brother-in-law when I'm married, he went vegetarian probably about a year ago, just from a meat-free month. And now he's a full-blown vegetarian. His wife is a vegan. His son, 7-year-old son, has actually said that he's a vegetarian now. He's even written on some of his school projects. And my brother-in-law, he used to be a pretty staunch meat eater, and it wasn't really until I came along, I think, he realized that, hey, everybody, all sorts of people are vegetarians and vegans. It doesn't matter whether you're a guy or a girl, or you're a tough-looking guy or a skinny-looking guy, or a large person, small person, no matter what culture you're from, everybody can be a vegan. And I think a lot of people kind of think, oh, vegans are just these skinny little pasty weirdos that, a bunch of tree-hugging hippies. But then when they see someone like myself, who I care about all that stuff, but I don't maybe look like your average vegan, people think, wow, that's cool, I can do that too, I guess. And a lot of people just never sort of thought about it like that. They've never really thought, I can do that too. They just kind of think it's for other people, but it's for everybody. And I was so stoked when my brother-in-law decided to take the plunge. And now he's actually quite vocally, he gets on the social media sometimes and backs me up. He sends me a bunch of articles if he sees things in the news about animals, and it just inspires me so much to see someone change for the better. And then in probably even bigger news is yesterday I was at my mum's house, and she's been a vegetarian. Actually, let me rephrase that. A pescatarian. I don't really like that word, but that's what she was. She was eating fish, and a little bit of yogurt and a little bit of cheese. And she was well aware of the issues to do with animals, and she's dealt with me for the last 20 years being vegan, so she knows exactly why I'm vegan. And she just never really sort of made that full connection to go full vegan, I guess. So a couple of days ago, she got she went to the doctor for a checkup, and they said that just something minor. There was a few palpitations with her heart, and it wasn't anything that they couldn't fix. And there was like a few little things they sort of suggested that she do, but it scared my mum a little bit, and it made her think about the way she's living her life. And I went around there yesterday, and we were having a cup of tea, and we were just talking about it. I said, Mum, seriously, like, from eating animal products, it is one of the major causes of heart disease and cancer. I mean, obviously, this is more related to heart disease, but it is one of the major causes of it. You can actually reverse it by eating a whole foods plant-based diet. I said, Mum, you're nearly there. Like, why don't you just cut out these few things? And she goes, no, I've actually been thinking about it, and I really want to do it. She goes, it's just sometimes I get a little bit lazy, like I'm not quite sure what to do. Sometimes I think, if there's nothing to eat, I'll just eat this chocolate bar. And I know a lot of people like that, like they just haven't made that full sort of commitment to doing it like full on. You go without if there's nothing else to eat, because there'll always be something to eat somewhere else. I just said to Mum, look, why don't you eat what's in your fridge, finish it off, because you've already bought it, finish it off. Next time you go shopping, I'm going to write you a list of all the things to look out for, all the things to buy and all the things not to buy. So I wrote her a list, and I said, look out for these things: meat, dairy, eggs, whey powder, casein powder, animal fats, all that kind of stuff. And then I said, and look for these things in replacement for some of the things that you've been eating. And I sort of wrote down where she can get all these things. And she was really excited about it. She said, I think I'm going to do it. And I said, be true to yourself, Mum. If you say you're going to do it, I'd love it if you did it properly this time. It's not that hard, and if you've got any issues, just call me. And she goes, no, I'm doing it properly this time. And I was just so happy to hear that my mum has made the full connection to go vegan. And it's definitely to do with animals with my mum, because my mum's always been a huge dog lover and very heavily involved in dog rescue. So she's done that for years with an organisation called SA Dog Rescue, who are a very big name in the dog rescue world Australia-wide. And that's been fantastic for her, because it's helped my mum really sort of connect to animals more. But through that, she started wanting to go vegetarian, and from a little bit of education from myself, she's started looking at other alternatives. And now, I guess, with the health scare, she's actually decided to go full vegan. So anybody can do it. And I get surprised every day when I hear of different stories of other people saying, hey, I once used to be a staunch meat eater, or once I used to hate vegans and I thought they were a bunch of freaks, but now I'm a vegan. And I got a message from a fisherman recently, which I posted on my Instagram and my Facebook. And his name was Andrew, and he said he was like a very, very experienced angler, and that was his hobby and his craft. And he spent thousands of dollars on all of his gear, and he'd go out fishing all the time, and he had all these pictures of him with absolutely enormous fish, and he was so proud of it. And he emailed me, and he said to me, I'm so ashamed of the life I used to lead and the harm I used to bring, and now I'm a strict vegan, and I'm so happy, and I've left that life behind. So again, it just goes to show that anyone's capable of it. Once you've made that connection, it's really hard to go back and sort of seal the things you used to do and think that that's acceptable. So if you want to be active, just start with that. Start with a little bit of education. If you've got social media, it's a great tool just to start posting a few things about being vegan. And you've probably seen what I post, and I do post very challenging stuff, and sometimes I'm very blunt. I guess that's just how I feel, and I'm not afraid to be blunt, and everyone knows what to expect from me, and I'll just speak openly and honestly. I know it's not that easy for some people, and some people definitely do struggle with the sort of confrontation thing. I do sometimes too. It can get quite awkward, but if you just want to start off with like, hey, I just read that 51% of greenhouse gases come from animal agriculture. Oh, that's an interesting fact. Here, everybody, have a look at that. And then the next thing, you might say that something about dairy, and then you could ease into the kind of more challenging stuff, but just start out with some of the basic facts. There's so many out there, and I post them all the time too. So have a if you want to share anything of mine, feel free. You can screenshot it. You don't even have to mention me in it. I don't care about that kind of stuff. Just, I do post a lot of facts and figures that I write up myself that I find, and you're more than welcome to use any of my content for anything. I don't need credit for it unless you feel like you want to give me that. So yeah, that's how you can get active. It can be like it can become a bit of an obsession. You do need to take a break from it sometimes. Like I definitely spend a hell of a lot of time thinking about animal rights, and I always want to do new stuff. But sometimes I'll have a couple of weeks off, and that's what you need. You need a little bit of a break every now and then. But if you're looking to get involved, it definitely, if you're looking to get involved in stuff more than social media, and I'm not going to lie, I actually think social media is a really good form of activism. A lot of people think it's an easy way to do it and you're not really doing much. Honestly, I think it's very, very effective, and probably the reason veganism's had such a massive boost in the last couple of years. Actually, I'll just bring this up now. I did read something. Mercy for Animals just posted something on their Facebook today, and it says here, wow, number of vegan products in Australia grows by 92%. And this was posted a couple of days ago. And it did say here about the NBC reports that according to Google, searches for vegan increased by 33% in the past year alone. So this is slightly higher than the increase from 2015 to 2016. So a 33% increase is absolutely crazy. And it says here also, so another interesting fact was in 2016, 1 in 8 of all products in Australia carried a vegetarian claim. So that's 1 in 8, with 6% of those products labelled as vegan. The increase in plant-based products comes with the trend among Australians to avoid meat. In fact, 1 in 7 surveyed said that they avoided or intended to avoid red meat in 2016. So things are booming. And if you just look at the supermarkets, the other day I was looking at the milk alternatives kind of section of the supermarket, and there was about, I'd say, 3 or 4 full bays in a supermarket aisle full of oat milks, almond milks, rice milks, soy milks, chia milks, whatever other milks they make, that was there. And I was just like, wow, this is so crazy. And even in the fridge now, a lot of those alternatives are coming out with refrigerated milks now, and they're taking over. And I've even noticed that a bunch of the meat sections of fridges have been scrapped and started getting replaced with tofus and meat alternatives and vegan cheeses, dairy alternatives and stuff. So things are growing so much, and just for me, it's just so enjoyable for me. When I went vegan 20 years ago, and I used to go into a supermarket and there'd be a packet of hot dogs, sanitarian veggie dogs, maybe some tofu, and that was about it. There was some soy cheese, but it still had casein powder. Is that how you say it? Casein powder, which is a milk byproduct. They had that in it, so you couldn't even eat it. And then there was one type of soy milk that was really crappy. And just to see where it is now, you can go into especially down here in Adelaide, you can go into nearly any supermarket, especially the Foodlands and the independents, and there are so many products. I feel like sometimes I'm in Whole Foods in the US when I'm in a Foodland in South Australia, because there's just aisles of this stuff that I can eat, and I've got so much choice. I nearly feel a little bit overwhelmed by the choices I have because I'm so used to not having a choice. So it's pretty amazing just to see where it's gone. And to see where it's heading. I mean, so many more people are getting behind the vegan thing. There's so many celebrities out there that back veganism. And I think I actually, one thing I absolutely love, it's more to do with fur than, I guess, edible animal-based products. But there's a lot of activists, especially out in Canada or in the US, one in particular called Rob Banks. Now, I'll just bring up his Instagram handle so I can give you the right one. But he is an animal liberation activist, and he does his Instagram is Rob. I think it's a _Banks, Banks, and he is an activist from New York City. He's super against fur, which is great. I mean, fur is one of those things that I know there's leather and wool and stuff, but I don't think they're kind of things people source out so much. Like specifically, like there's kind of just leather and wool in a lot of products, and people just use it. It's a very common thing, but fur is so much crueler because it's like people source out these fur products to wear as a fashion statement. Like, look at my amazing like fur coat and how great I look. Whereas I think with like leather and wool, a lot of people just kind of just wear it just because they just buy something, don't even look what it's made of. It just happens to have a bit of leather in it. Not that I agree with that anymore, but fur is more of a kind of like saying, it's more like saying, hey, I know this is a dead animal and I know it was skinned alive and anally electrocuted, but I'm going to wear it anyway because it looks fucking awesome and everyone's going to think I'm great. And what he does is he goes through the city in New York City, and his sort of motto is like, if you're wearing fur, you will be approached. And he'll just go up to people wearing fur or people coming out of stores buying fur products, and he'll just start questioning them as to why they bought it. How do they feel about animal cruelty? He'll bring up a video on his iPad about how the animals got skinned and how their fur was taken. And he will follow them and pretty much until they either tell him to fuck off and cross the street, and then he'll just shout at them a bunch of times, or he'll stick a bunch of stickers on their coat, or he gets them to tear the fur trim off their coat and he takes it and donates it to an animal shelter. And he has a pretty good ratio. Like a lot of the time he does actually get people to donate it, and they see his point of view, and he's totally cool with them after that. But a lot of people like arc up and tell him that he sucks and how dare he harass them, but he'll just give it to them. And he is relentless. And even though just like abusing someone in the street might not get a result that he wants as far as getting the fur trim back or them stopping buying fur, but it makes people feel uncomfortable wearing this kind of stuff, well, especially in New York City, because he's basically said, me and my activists are going to approach you if you wear this, so prepare to be embarrassed. He'll even go into the stores and embarrass people in the stores who are buying stuff. One big thing he's been doing lately is there's a company out there called Canada Goose who make they make jackets for extreme weather. Most of it's I think it's duck or geese down, but then it has a fur trim which is made from like wild dogs or coyotes. And I think that store probably opened about I'd probably say 2 or 3 months ago, and it was this big, beautiful looking store in New York City. And basically from day one, all these activists have just stood out the front. They've even had to have barricades and cop and police presence there, like constantly every single day, just chanting anti-fur stuff, harassing everybody going in and out, and just causing a ruckus. They've got drums and huge signs. They're there all day and all night, and anyone that buys anything, they'll follow them down the street and question them, and basically making it really uncomfortable for people to go into the store. And so they should. I know maybe some of you think that's too much, but really, what's a good way to get people like... I feel that this same thing is going to... Like, people are starting to probably feel quite embarrassed to wear that kind of stuff in public, unless you're a complete psychopath and you don't actually consider what you're contributing to. But I think things are really changing in the sense that, it might start with things like this where people are like, I don't want to wear fur out in public. Someone might actually approach me. And I was actually only thinking about this morning. I think some guy had said something to me and he was like, oh, you're a waste of space, you stupid vegan or something. And I said, you know what? One day you're going to be the minority and you're the one that's going to be shamed publicly for harming animals or eating meat, because it's going to become something that is taboo and that you shouldn't do, and you're going to have to hide because you don't want any of the animal rights activists to see you doing it. And I feel like it's going there a little bit, because like out of my group of friends, like say for instance the 400 or 500 people that I follow on social media, they're not all animal rights people. There's plenty of like old friends, school friends and stuff like that. I very rarely see people post pictures of their like, oh, we're going out to dinner to this nice steak restaurant or that, or we're going out and eating this duck or whatever. I very rarely see that, but I always see vegan food posts, and I know vegan people like to post pictures of their food, probably more so than meat eaters. But I do feel like people are maybe a little bit apprehensive to post stuff like that because they know it's probably going to get a bit of a shitty response. Like if any of my friends post things like, I got a couple of friends who are like staunch meat eaters, and they'll post things like, oh, we're having a barbecue at Jono's with a lamb on the spit. And they know I'm going to comment something on it, like I'm going to comment a sad face or that sucks or something like that, or they're probably going to get unfollowed by me. Not that they probably care, but I just think a lot of people are a little bit more apprehensive to sort of admit that they still contribute to suffering. So if you get a chance, check out Rob Banks. His videos are awesome, and there's another guy who does it out of Canada. He's only got a very small following, but I love him. He's awesome. His name's Vegan Nut. I think there's a couple of little hyphens in there, but yeah, definitely just search for him, Vegan Nut, and you'll find him. And he's pretty much doing the same thing that Rob Banks does. So there's so much you can do to get active, whether it's like doing things like that, if you've got that kind of confidence. There's small little things you can do. If I think there's a place called Activism Stickers. I actually only followed it the other day, so I'll give you the right Instagram handle. Instagram's absolutely fantastic for stuff. I pretty much use it for all my references. Activism Stickers. They looks like they're out of. They might be out of the UK. Not 100% sure, but anyway, you can buy stickers from them, and they're basically just to use within sort of your local community, whether you're at the supermarket and stuff. Like they've got things that you can stick on cheese that just says, they're real small stickers that just say dairy equals cruelty, go vegan. They got ones you can stick on meat. Are your taste buds more important than an animal's life? They've got some stop sign stickers like the ones that I sell also. Whether you buy them from me or them, absolutely no problem. It's not a competition. They've got things like that says try almond milk instead, that you can just pop onto milk containers in the supermarket. There's so many different things, and real simple. They just come on a big sheet. You can just peel them off as you're walking through the supermarket, just slap them on things. I mean, things like that are effective because even if someone sees it and goes, oh, bloody hell, stupid greenies putting things in the supermarket, on the supermarket products, still making people think a little bit. Some people, if 5 people see it and think vegans are dickheads, one person might see it and think, oh, it's a bit weird. Maybe I shouldn't buy that, or maybe I should think about it next time, or maybe I'll look into that next time. So definitely, that's another way of doing some activism. Other things you can do is just attend, like follow some of your local animal rights groups on Facebook. Attend their events. There's a great way to start, I think, is Sea Shepherd. Sea Shepherd is obviously more about sort of saving the oceans and the animals that live within the oceans, but it's a good organisation just to get involved and sort of it's not too confrontational, and it's just sort of helps you find your feet a little bit in the volunteering world. And through kind of stuff like that, and you build up your confidence, you can go out to protests, and you might sort of be a bit more confident to like chant at protests or march down the street. Maybe if you live, it's not happening a lot in SA at the moment, but in Victoria, for instance, get involved with Animal Liberation Victoria. They go out and do slaughterhouse vigils where they'll go out to the slaughterhouse and they'll stand in front of the trucks. They'll get photos of all the animals. There's normally police attendants, but you're on a public road. You can basically do what you want to do if you want to take photos or whatever. The police can ask you to move, but legally you can be there. You're not breaking anything. You're in a public space, and you're with a group of people, so you can feel safe with other people. And it's non-violent, so you're just there protesting. It's your right to protest something that you don't disagree with. So get involved with things like that. That's a little bit more, I guess, direct action. But also, like, I know that sort of stuff can be a little bit hard for some people because you actually, you're face to face with the reality of it. Like, you will see the animals in trucks and that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, it's a little bit more. It has a little bit more impact because, for instance, the last time Animal Liberation Victoria did that, they got media coverage and they were on the channels. Well, they were on all the newses. And it's just making people more aware. So the more things that happen like that, the more people start becoming aware and start thinking about, why are these people doing this kind of thing? Maybe these industries are pretty shitty. You wouldn't believe how many people actually don't really think about where their food comes from. I was talking to someone the other day, and he's quite sympathetic to, it's my uncle actually, he's quite sympathetic to the vegan cause. He never gives me a hard time or anything. And his wife eats a lot of vegetarian food. I think she's nearly even vegan. Absolutely beautiful family. But he said to me, oh, but like, what's wrong with eating dairy? Like, they don't harm the animals to get milk. And we're only there for a very quick stop. And I just kind of say, oh, I didn't want to go into the specifics of dairy production and why I don't like it. But I just said to him, look, it's more about the animals being exploited for something that we don't need. And I sort of left it with him. And hopefully, he's a very smart man. He's a doctor. Hopefully that's something he might just go off and think about and do a little bit more research into. But it just goes to show that people just don't really know how their food's produced. And that also makes me think that, I don't want to always make people feel like absolutely horrible every time, like I'm talking about eating meat and dairy, because some people just haven't thought about it before, and we've all been brought up a certain way to think that eating meat and dairy is normal. But it's just important to plant those seeds. And, sometimes, again, I'll get angry and I'll post things that are a little bit more harsh. I don't ever feel guilty for it. I'll never say sorry for it. This whole thing, this whole animal holocaust, makes me so furious all the time. And a lot of time I'm trying to contain myself and actually not get too angry and trying to be a little bit more diplomatic, but it's not always possible. So do your best. If you need any more information on how you can get involved in your city or where you live, shoot me an email, theveganalliance618@gmail.com. I'd be happy to look into it for you. I probably already know some of the organisations in your area, so let me know and I'll be more than happy to point you in the right direction. Don't be afraid to do it. Don't be scared to speak up. You're not going to get in trouble. You'll always get a few people that hate on it. You'll always get a few people that oppose you. If you do attend protests or slaughterhouse vigils or things like that, sometimes there'll be police presence, but don't let it intimidate you, because that's the whole reason they'll turn up to these things. They turn up because, they want to sort of deter people from doing these sort of things. And a lot of times police presence definitely scares people. But don't be scared. If you're in a public place, not doing anything wrong, and all you're doing is either taking photos of some animals in a truck or just standing in the way, you're really not doing anything illegal. Just as long as you're not on their property, you can be there. So there's actually, if you're really serious about activism, there is the Animal Activist Forum, and there's I'm just going to bring it up now and see if I can find the website, but there is an animal activist website that gives you a lot of information on your rights as an activist, and I think it's this one here, look up the Animal Activist Forum. If you just go there, that's actually a animalactivistforum.com is it's an event, and you can actually go to that. It's in Melbourne in October. That basically is sort of like a big meetup of activists. There's a couple of other websites which I can't find right now, but I will try and find it for you and post it in the notes of this. If you just type in animal rights, animal activist rights. If you just type that into Google, you should be able to find something there. But there is another really good website which I just can't find at the moment. But that's okay. I'll pop that in the notes, or you can email me for that, and I'll find it for you. That actually leads me to something I was talking about with someone. I don't know. It was a few days ago. I was talking about like eating with meat eaters, and I remember a few years ago, I saw a friend of mine, she posted on social media saying, I don't eat with meat eaters anymore. Like, I can't do it. Like, it's absolutely horrendous. And I used to think, oh, that's a bit much. Like, not everyone's vegan, and, you don't want to sort of alienate everybody. And that means who are you going to hang out with if you can't ever eat with a meat eater? And, you've got so many friends and family that eat meat, and you won't be able to attend any of the family events. And I thought it was like pretty full on. And like, as time goes on and the more and more I've got involved with animal rights, I've actually started to think I actually feel like that now. Like, I haven't said that I'll never eat with a meat eater again, because again, it's quite impossible, because not everyone is vegan, and sometimes you might be out somewhere and 6 of the people you're with are vegan, and then 2 people at the end will order something that's not vegan. But I'm not going to lie, I actually find it quite difficult to be around now, and I do struggle a lot. Like, I nearly feel like I do judge those people, because I think to myself, there's all these fantastic vegan options. Yeah, you ordered that. And you know me, so surely if you know me, you know where that comes from and you know the suffering and the pain that went into that. So why are you ordering it? And it becomes pretty tough because, like, I don't really want to be around that, but, I still want to be around the people that you love and care about. So I'd love to hear your stories about that. Like, do you guys struggle with, and especially younger people who still live with their families? If you're someone who, say, you might be 17, 16, 17, still at school, you're right into your animal rights, you've seen the light, you've made the connection, yet you're still having to eat dinner with your parents and they're serving up, ham, beef, steak, lamb, chicken, and every time it comes out, either the smell makes you sick to your stomach, which it does for me. Anytime I go into a supermarket and I smell those barbecue chickens on the rotisserie, oh God, I absolutely hate it. But I definitely do empathise with the young people that have to be around that all the time, because you don't really have a say. Your parents can eat what they want to eat, and you've sort of got to sit at the table with them. And if you cause an issue and you're not going to eat at the table anymore, then there's an argument. It becomes really uncomfortable, and you've got to live in the house with them. And I know it becomes really, really awkward. So what do you do? And I think the best thing you could do. I mean, I know parents like to think that they know more than their children, but in some cases they do know more. They've got a lot more experience. But especially when it comes to meat and dairy, I don't think many people, especially older generations, haven't been educated that well. And if you're feeling really uncomfortable about it, just my fiance Amy, she actually has no qualms about it. If something gets served on the table that she doesn't like, she'll just tell her brother. She'll be like, "Oh, you a baby cow, are you? Why are you drinking that milk?" And he'll just laugh at her like it. It's quite funny and stuff. And it is quite funny when we say it, but at the end of the day, like, she's really just not scared to say anything. She says, always give her dad a hard time about eating meat and stuff, and it's kind of good because she's brave enough to do it. But it's not everyone can be like that. So say if you're sitting at the table and you're feeling a little bit uncomfortable because your mum's just served up chicken for the whole family and you're just eating the vegetables, and your dad says, "Why don't you eat the chicken? Like, stop being silly," or whatever. And you say, "Oh," rather than get angry and go, "Oh, fuck you, Dad, like, you're an idiot and you're horrible because you're contributing to suffering and, making everybody angry and, causing a big argument," you could just say, "Well, you know what, Dad? The reason I don't eat chicken anymore is because I saw this thing on YouTube, or I saw this thing on Facebook, and it made me feel really uncomfortable and I didn't want to contribute to that. Or I saw some statistics on how bad meat and dairy is for your health, and, like, I just want to be healthy. And, like, Dad, you should, if your parents have had some illnesses, you could say, it could really help you with this or that." And, like, in a passive way, you could have, like, a really intelligent conversation over the dinner table with your parents, and you might get somewhere. And even if they just go, "Oh yeah, well, it's my choice to eat meat," at least you've planted the seed, and at least you've kind of let them know that you're serious about not eating animals. And also just say to them, "Oh, look, you're eating vegan food too. All those vegetables on there are vegan. So, like, vegan food's not that disgusting." That's one thing that really annoys me. A lot of people like to, "Oh, I hate vegan food. It's so disgusting." I'm like, but you eat it every day. I mean, vegetables are vegan food. But people just kind of, it's like when you put a label on it, "Oh, this is vegan. Yuck, that's disgusting. What's even in that? It must be terrible for you. It must be highly processed." But it's not highly processed. Things are processed, but vegetables, potatoes, broccoli, cauliflower, zucchini, apples, oranges, they're not highly processed. They're just fruit. It's just a whole food. So people eat vegan all the time. And you could always say that. Just say, "Oh, Dad, you eat half of your diet's vegan. Why don't you just cut out the half of the diet that's not vegan, and then you'll be a vegan. You're not really going to miss out on that much stuff. Plus, look at all these amazing mock meats that you can get in the supermarket now. You can get fish, you can get chicken, blah, blah, blah." So there's actually some really great conversations you could have with people who are in your family who are a little bit apprehensive to you making a change in your lifestyle. But see how you go. Trying to get an argument, because obviously it's going to make you a lot more uncomfortable. I always tend to try and have more passive conversations. Sometimes on social media, if people are absolute trolls, I'll sort of give them a bit of a piece of my mind, a bit more of an angry message. But in general, when I try and talk to people I actually care about, like, it's better to have a reasonable conversation with someone, because it does plant the seed. So I've talked about those couple of things. Oh, yes, I did. I watched a documentary on Netflix the other day called Food Choices. Um, that was a really good documentary. It had been recommended quite heavily on social media from a lot of people that I followed. And there was just so many interesting points to be made. And I guess it's kind of in the same kind of vein as Forks Over Knives. If you haven't seen Forks Over Knives, it basically talks about the China study and how eating a whole foods plant-based diet can reverse the effects of heart disease and cancer and many other illnesses. But this is kind of sort of on the same, coming from the same kind of perspective, but it was a little bit different. Maybe not from so much of a scientific background, because the China study was a massive study done by a couple of scientists. This is just done by an interested party. Just a guy, I think it was a Swedish guy, a Norwegian guy. I don't think he was a vegan. It was just a meat eater who's interested just to see what he could find out about how your food choices affect your health and affect the environment. And I wrote down, actually, probably the movie only went for about an hour and 30 minutes, but I think it took about 3 hours to get through, because I was constantly stopping and taking notes, because there were just so many interesting points in there that I thought I could share on the podcast. So I've got a whole list of points here, and they are all in sort of note form, so I'm going to try and decipher them as I go through. But here's a little bit of ammo that you can use when you're talking to friends and family, or doctors or whatever, things that might help them sort of help sway them when you tell them that you're a vegan. So let's start with this. A higher calcium intake gives you a higher chance of osteoporosis. And my understanding is that the reason for that is because, just 1 second, I am going to plug my laptop in because it's about to die. Osteoporosis, here we go. It just means it's a disease in which the density and quality of the bone is reduced. So there you go. So just so you know what I'm talking about, that's what osteoporosis is. So my understanding is when you digest animal proteins, it actually makes your blood quite acidic. And the thing that balances out that acidity to make it more alkaline is calcium. Now, when you drink milk, obviously there's calcium in milk, but it's also the milk, a lot of the nutrients in the milk are making your blood acidic. So what actually happens is, because your bones are full of calcium, to neutralize the acidity, it leaches calcium out of your bones. You barely absorb any of the calcium that's coming from the milk, and then you actually pee out all that calcium. Then your blood goes back to normal. And then if you're if you constantly animal products, your body's constantly doing that, and you're constantly leaching calcium from your bones, which means that the dairy industry will tell you, yeah, hey, it's so good for you, there's so much calcium in milk, but they don't tell you that it's also leaching all the calcium from your bones and making your bones brittle. So definitely something to think about. I thought that was really, really interesting. Cholesterol. Eggs are massively high in cholesterol. Actually, one of the highest forms of cholesterol. And cholesterol is, besides being, there's some cholesterol, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know all the versions of cholesterol, but from what I know is that some cholesterol is genetic, and you just can't help but have some cholesterol. So it's just natural. I naturally have a little bit of high cholesterol, not dangerously high, like tiny bit over. Like my doctor said, it was absolutely fine. It's just a tiny bit over the recommended limit of the genetic version of the cholesterol. I think I said that right. But cholesterol from like food intake, if you're a vegan, you just don't get it. You don't get cholesterol from any foods you're eating if you're eating truly vegan. But eating eggs is giving you so much cholesterol, and cholesterol is high cholesterol. No one wants that. So if you really are serious about your health, eating eggs, like a lot of people eat it for this, that, and the other, and a lot of gym junkies love eggs and put them in smoothies and eat them on toast every day, or scrambled eggs or poached eggs or whatever. But stay away from them. Obviously, being a vegan, I'm going to tell you to stay away from them. Just stay away from them for your health, for your own health benefits. They're not necessary. We've got something here about omega-3s. Omega-3s and 6s are essential fatty acids, and the ratio of both have risen due to a high intake of meats and oils. And instead of lowering the omega-6, we supplement the omega-3. So basically, instead of going, so we've got a high intake of the omega-3, and this actually increases the risk of cardiovascular disease. So basically, people substitute omega-3 supplement omega-3 with fish oil. Fish oil is just a massive billion-dollar market. Everyone's like, take fish oil, it's so good for your omega-3s and whatever. But if basically, as I said, the ratio of the omega-3 and 6s have gone up from what they used to be. They used to, they always said they should be on a balanced ratio, but because the omega-6s have gone right up from a high meat and oil intake, everyone's like, oh, you got to take these supplements, these fish oil supplements, so you have a balanced omega ratio. But instead of taking these fish oils and pushing the omega-3s right up, you could just actually cut out the meat and oils and bring the omega-6s back down to the omega-3s. So something they're not telling you, because fish oil is an absolutely massive market. So that was a really interesting point for me. What do we got here? Meat increases artery issues, that which increases the risk of erectile dysfunction. So, they talk about meat being much. I eat my meat, I love meat, love going out and getting a Palmer with the boys, and that's probably my best Bogan accent. But they talk about meat being macho. I don't care for that macho kind of male stereotype kind of bullshit. It's just, you are who you are. You be whoever you want to be. You don't need to be macho to be a man. You can be as sensitive as you want to be. I mean, that stuff's all crap anyway. But just because there is that kind of stigma, it's like, hey, you got to eat meat to be a man. It's like, well, meat actually increases artery issues, which increases the risk of erectile dysfunction. So if you really want to talk about like being macho, erectile dysfunction is, not making, you're bringing on erectile dysfunction yourself, which a lot of guys wish that they didn't have. Obviously it's a serious issue. So are you really making yourself more macho by increasing a risk of erectile dysfunction? And erectile dysfunction is actually a sign of the beginning of artery issues across the body. So that's what they were saying in the documentary. So yeah, look out for that. And by no means do I don't want it to be people to think that, like, by saying, if you've got erectile dysfunction, you're not a real man. Like, that's not the truth. But if you want to talk about got to eat meat to be macho, well, it's helping you not perform in the bedroom, then, there goes your machiness if that's what you care about. So, like I said, I don't really care about that stuff, but I just thought that was an interesting point. What do we got here? Okay, so here, this is an interesting one. There was a doctor called Dr. Benjamin Slock, and he wrote one of the best-selling books in history called Dr. Spock's Baby and Childcare. And he said, I think this is, I didn't actually write down the date, but I actually think this was written in like maybe the 20s or 30s. But he basically said in that, all children should be raised with zero exposure to meat and dairy. That's all I wrote, and I'm going to actually look up a little bit more about that book. But that was coming from one of the best-selling books in history from a well-acclaimed doctor. And that was from, nearly 100 years ago. So if they already knew that 100 years ago, surely that still stands today. And even if it's not for the health benefits, bringing your kids up, if you don't believe that, like, being vegan is healthy for your children, what about the actual, like, mental implications of it? Like, again, I said, like, my nephew, like, he's my fiance's nephew. Does that make him my nephew? I'm not really sure. Whatever. He just made the connection one day. He was kind of like, I think he went to Lord of the Fries in Melbourne, and he saw something on, they have some facts and figures up there about animal agriculture. And he said something like, oh, by eating this, you save 100 cows. I don't remember exactly what it said. But he said, oh, I'm saving, so many cows by eating this. And so when they went to eat somewhere else the next day, and they were still eating vegetarian, he said, oh, but Mum, I want to go back to Lord of the Fries because I want to save 100 cows. And I just thought, kids truly care about animals. Like, I really feel like people, like kids, are born with naturally they want to be kind to things when we're just taught not to be kind to certain things because that's what we eat. And I think like feeding your kids death, I actually think it's like I feel like it's a form of abuse. Like why the hell would you do that? Like people say, oh, I'm just going to feed them meat and give them the choice as they get older. But I feel like feed them vegetables and then give them the choices as they get older as to whether they want to keep eating vegetables or not, based on the knowledge that they have from growing up in a vegan family, and like then let them decide whether they actually want to put that death and disease into their body, not the other way around. So something to look into. I will look into that Dr. Spock's baby and childcare book just to see, get a little bit more information on it. It was just a sort of a dot point I jotted down, but I did want to mention it. Here we got some we got some points on land usage. 91% of all deforested land in the Amazon is used by the livestock industry. 200 million acres have been destroyed since 1978, and 5 million acres of rainforest are destroyed every year by the livestock industry around the world. 5 million acres of rainforest. 70% of all arable land in the US is used to grow crops for animals. So much of the land, the highest percentage of land use, is used to either graze animals or to grow feed for animals. And again, this comes back to like the whole thing is like, why are we like producing all these animals to bring them into a life of suffering, to put this massive strain on the environment where we have to produce all this extra food to feed these animals to produce even less food to feed humans, when we could just axe that, don't produce all these excess animals that we don't need, don't bring them into a life of pain and misery and then slaughter them and then waste all these resources just to get more of some product that no one needs. And water usage, 2,400 gallons, don't know what the equivalent of that is, you'll have to look it up. 2,400 gallons of water produces 12 pounds of grain or 1 pound of beef. So you can have 12 pounds of food or 1 pound of food with all that water. So per calorie, meat uses about 10 times the amount of water, land, and energy. So if you want to do the maths, 10 times the amount of everything per calorie. So, like it logically, it 100% doesn't make sense to eat meat on an environmental standpoint. As far as the ozone layer, livestock produces about 14.5% of global CO2 emissions, which is more than all of transport combined. So all of the cars, trucks, trains, planes, everything we drive, which we think, oh God, they're spitting out so much pollution, must be doing so much damage to the ozone layer and the world we live in. But livestock is producing more than all of that combined. And you've got to think about it. There's billions of animals on the planet at one time, all producing methane. It's not doing the world any favors at all, and it's all completely unnecessary. We don't need it. If we change to plant-based diet, we can mitigate climate change, and we can't stop climate change completely. I mean, living on this planet, there's always going to be some factors of what we do, whether it be, eating meat, not eating meat, driving a car, not driving a car, traveling a lot, different things that we buy that have to be produced in a way that might not be super environmentally friendly. There's just some things we need to live. We don't need meat to live, so we don't need to produce it. So it's an absolute waste and a completely unnecessary thing that we're doing, which is contributing to the destruction of our environment. So basically, the idea is to minimize what you're actually your contribution to the downfall of our planet best you can. So from all those facts and figures, you can see, and again, I've taken all these facts and figures from Food Choices, which you can see all of this if you want to watch it in actually, if you back to the Dr. Spock's baby and childcare point that I noted, if you want to go and actually watch Food Choices, that will explain a little bit more. I just didn't write down enough information at the time. But yeah, definitely pay a little bit of more attention to that, and send me a message if you've got some more information on it. So yeah, minimize. That's what you want to do. Don't eat meat. You don't need it. The environment doesn't need it. It's bad for it. So one more thing I want to talk about. We're about on my hour limit, which I like to do about an hour for my podcast, so I don't bore the hell out of you. But listen to a few podcasts recently, and they go for like hour 45, 2 hours and 20 minutes. And I just can't get through them. They're just too long. I feel like an hour is the perfect amount. Do you think I should do it longer? Should I do it shorter? I don't want to bore people, and I don't want to do podcasts. Like some podcasts I listen to, they sort of do like 2 a week, some of them, and I just think, I can't possibly have enough information to do 2 per week. It's just way too much. I want to have good content, and I don't want to bore people. I don't want to sort of repeat myself all the time. So I sort of try and limit it to roughly about 1 a month I'm doing at the moment. That gives me enough time to sort of generate a few notes and have a few things to talk about it. Perhaps I'll have, at times I could be a bit more inspired and have them come up, I might want to do one every 2 weeks, but I'm thinking about 1 a month. So I'd love some feedback. What do you think? Should I do more or less? Do you like longer podcasts, shorter podcasts? I mean, I could probably talk forever, and I don't have any guests on here today, but sometimes when you have guests, you can feel like you could sit there and pick their brain for hours and hours and hours. But I like to try and keep it to a minimum and just get to the point. And I'm definitely trying to work a little bit on my speaking. I'm trying not to and ah so much. I feel like this episode I've nailed it a little bit more. I just said then. Let me know what you think. I've definitely been trying to work on it. I've actually been reading a little bit more about how to not and ah, and how to be a little bit more direct with the points you're trying to make, and not sort of beat around the bush and explain it in 10 different ways. So I am learning, and I would love to hear some feedback as to how you think I'm going with it, because at the end of the day, I am still a rookie. This is only 8 episodes in. I've never done this before. 2 more things I wanted to talk about. The concealment of the meat production establishments. That was another thing that was touched base on in Food Choices too, I think. I did write this down in the same group of notes, so I think it is from the same thing. But just basically, I drove out past the slaughterhouse a little while ago now, a few months ago. I was driving past, and I just noticed, I was like, the garden looks really nice. They've got all these beautifully mowed lawns and really green, and like nice trees, and everything was well kept, and the whole front of this place looked like a really nice building. I was like, wow, that's so weird, because it's a slaughterhouse. It's not really near anyone, because obviously slaughterhouses are miles away because they don't want people to see them. But I was like, why does it look so nice? And you know why? I think it's because, I know why, because they want the people that work there to come to work not being fucking depressed that they're murdering animals all day. So they've got something that just sort of makes them feel a little bit nice about being there. They're not working in some just bland looking factory. They can go outside and have their cigarette and drink their farmers using a nice coffee on the nice green grass before they go back to murdering more animals. Also, for people driving past, if they drive past like I did and go, oh shit, that's a slaughterhouse, and they go, oh, they probably don't pay that much attention to it, because they're like, oh, nice looking building, nice well kept garden. And it was really interesting, because I thought, this is not necessary. They don't need to have a nice garden for it, because there's nothing nice about this building at all. They just want to have it, and they also want to have it that way. If people were turning up to the office part of the slaughterhouse for meetings and that kind of thing, they want it to be sort of appealing. They don't want people to come to drive into this bloody, stinky, disgusting, dirty mess. They want someone it needs to have some kind of face to it that's appealing for people to actually want to be in that environment. So I found that quite interesting. And, just the fact that there's, all these types of places, all these slaughterhouses, anywhere where they're actually producing the meat or killing the animals or raising the animals, are all off in the distance somewhere where you can't see it. And I know why that is. I mean, we all know why that is, because they don't want us to actually see what they do. They're transporting, I was driving around in the night time the other day, and there was the other night, and there was a bunch of trucks that I saw with animals on it. I thought they're doing, half the time. I do see animal trucks during the day sometimes, but they're probably transporting more of them at night so that it's less noticeable. They don't want people to see what's going on. I mean, there's a select group of people from this industry that know exactly what's going on, but because it makes them so much money, they don't care. So they're like, just do as much of it in areas where people won't see what's going on, conceal as much of it as possible, and just produce that nicely presented package for the supermarket, and people will keep buying it. So just don't be fooled. If you go somewhere or someone tells you that, oh, that doesn't happen here, or that doesn't happen in Australia, that only happens overseas, don't be fooled, because they want to hide absolutely everything. And whether they're beating the animals with sticks in a slaughterhouse or just doing it by the book, it's all animal cruelty, and it's all being concealed. So just a small point I wanted to talk about. And lastly, a point I got from Food Choices, which I probably want to end on, is they said, do you know what's unique about us, about the human race? And they said, we're the only species on Earth that does not live in harmony with nature. Like, isn't that ridiculous? Like, we're probably the most intelligent species. We are the most intelligent species on the planet, yet we can't live in harmony with our environment. But every other animal can. Every other animal, like, we are like a virus on this planet, and we are just doing so much to destroy it. And, I'm a human, like, I still want to live, but at the end of the day, when I want to minimize my impact so much, I want to minimize my suffering. I want to minimize the suffering that I cause. I want to end it. I went vegan to end the suffering I cause. I want to minimize my impact on the planet, and I want to be as environmentally friendly as possible, because Earth, this planet we live on, is like a little ball floating through space, and it's so precious and amazing that it can even sustain life like it does. And everything that goes on, nature, the hills, the waterfalls, the sky, the storms, the sun, everything is just so like everything about this planet and this universe is so amazing and fantastic, yet the people that live on it, just disrespect it so much, to the point, the other day I saw a rubbish bin just overflowing with rubbish right next to a river. And it wasn't just overflowing with little rubbish. Like, people had just gone, oh, well, the rubbish bin's full, so I'll just pile all my other rubbish up around it, and someone will deal with it. But at the end of the day, it was a windy day, like the day before, so half the rubbish would have blown around and gone into the river, and they don't care because I've got rid of it. But that just shows how much disrespect we have for our planet, and we don't think ahead. I produce waste. I buy things and it has plastic on it, or I buy things and it's in a heap of cardboard or styrofoam. Now, when I go down in my apartment block to the bins, I pull everything out and I put everything in the appropriate bins, and I know a lot of it goes straight into landfill, but I always pull out all the stuff that can be recycled, because it matters. It really matters. And I know it's a pain in the ass, because instead of going to the bin and just throwing everything in and taking me 2 minutes, well, not that, taking me 10 seconds just to ditch it in the bin, I go down there and spend 10 minutes pulling it apart. But that means that I can go to bed at night knowing that I've actually done something for my planet. And the wastage that, say, I don't know whether it's half the wastage that I have contributed to, the things that I've bought, has actually gone back into creating more things. The other half, obviously, some stuff goes in the landfill. You can't avoid that. But just pay a little bit of mind to what you're doing. This is just an example of what you can do. But people need to pay more mind to the planet they live on, to the way they're impacting it, and to the way they're treating other living beings. I've blabbed on a little bit there. I do want to end it now. I've pretty much gone through all my notes, and don't really have anything else to talk about, so I'm not going to bore you with any just random things that pop into my head. So yeah, until next time, live vegan. Don't be scared to be active. Don't be scared to talk to people about how you feel. Don't be afraid of sharing your beliefs. Don't be... They're not beliefs. That's a thing I've got to stop saying. Veganism isn't belief, it's a lifestyle. Belief is like believing in a religion. Don't be afraid to share your opinions and your views, And don't be afraid to share the truth about what happens to animals on this planet. So, yeah, until then, thanks again for listening. I really enjoyed today's podcast, even though I was talking to myself the whole time. And hopefully you'll tune in to episode 9, which I should do in a few weeks. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time.